Good afternoon and welcome to Untitled Lecture. As you know, we have organized this week history, ancient India, and yesterday we discussed on Harappan culture. So we will further proceed this lecture to the Vedic period, Harappan culture to the Vedic period. And for discussion on this topic, we have in our studio Dr. Shankar Kumar, who is an eminent scholar, and I will hand over the studio to him so that we can further discuss this topic. Welcome you, sir.
Thank you, and good afternoon, viewers. Yesterday, we talked about the Harappan civilization, and we shall take the sequential development so far as pan-Indian perspective is concerned up to the end of what we understand as later Vedic period from there on. Since we have already discussed in another interaction that I had with you, the Chalcolithic cultures, some of which are post-Harappan as well, therefore, we shall be excluding that from the purview of our discussion today, although chronologically even Chalcolithic cultures can be studied with reference to the chronological frame of post-Harappan, in the sense, say, from Western India and also from the Malwa area, central western part of the Indian subcontinent, from around 2000 BC to say about 1000 BC. Now, talking about the Harappan and the decline of Harappan civilization, yesterday we had surveyed various theories which have been proposed by historians and scholars in relation to the sudden decline, as well as in relation to the you can say process of decline of Harappan civilization. While discussing that, you must have noted that we had spoken of the need to understand the decline of Harappan civilization in a chronologically and especially staggered way. So, even in terms of time and space, this process of decline was staggered, meaning thereby that it all did not happen at one place at one point of time. Some regions of Harappa underwent decline. They started showing the process of decline right from 2000 BC, whereas quite a few other areas started showing this process of decline little bit late. Nevertheless, by around 1700 to 1750, or we can say around this time, the urban aspects of Harappan civilization had vanished, had come to an end, and what had survived thereupon was a kind of ruralized settlements in some pockets of what otherwise in pre-existing times was Harappan civilization. So, we get quite a few instances of cultures which can be referred to as late Harappan, or some of them even post-Harappan cultures from the northwestern part of the Indian subcontinent. Sothi Siswal culture and so forth. There are quite a few sites in Gujarat and Kutch area where these late Harappan settlements are said to be materially more prosperous than the mature Harappan phase, historians and archaeologists have worked out the number of sites which can be dated to the post-Harappan bracket, and that comes out to be significantly higher than the sites which characterized Run of Kutch area and Gujarat area during the mature phase. What it shows is that perhaps more number of people have started or had started inhabiting this particular patch of the Indian subcontinent in the post-Harappan times. So, these instances significantly tend to revise the conventional understanding of Harappan decline as if it all happened at one go and there was nothing left subsequent to the decline of Harappan civilization. So, that has to be understood. Similarly, we also yesterday did hint towards the elements of continuity as well, alongside of course the change which we can see in the post-Harappan or subsequent cultures from 1500 BC onwards. But in these patches that we are talking of, some say pottery making traditions of the Harappan times or other aspects of village life can also be seen to be surviving. Some of the cultural elements could also be seen to be surviving. So, this process of continuity is happening alongside change in the post-Harappan times. Now, archaeologically speaking, since we had yesterday emphasized a lot on the issue of the absence of literary sources with reference to Harappan times, and thereby impairing our understanding of several aspects of Harappan life, say polity, society, and the ideological aspects of Harappan life, religious life, and so forth. In the absence of literary sources, it's somewhat hard to reconstruct these aspects of Harappan life. Now, if we talk of the northwestern part of India, the Sapt Sindhu area, say from 1500 BC onwards, then we start getting archaeological remains of some settlements, some you can say inhabitation sites, and on that basis we can try to reconstruct as to what actually must have been happening around this area at this in this bracket of time, in this bracket of chronology. So, this is the archaeological, or you can say the material angle of our inquiry in the post-Harappan times. But if we scan, say, the period from 1500 BC to say about 600 BC, the area that we are talking of, the northwestern part of India and also the northern part of the Indus and the Gangetic plains, then we find that merely on the basis of archaeological records, again it becomes little bit hard to reconstruct on any definite basis the contours of the lifestyle, the contours of the you can say the entire spectrum of life that came to inhabit this particular area. Now, fortunately, we have the Vedas, the Vedic sources. All of us know principally there are 4 Vedas, the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Atharva Veda, and the second one, of course, the Rig Veda, Sam Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. Now, historians have tried to date these texts, which of course are religious in nature, because they are not concerned with the task of recording day-to-day instances, or they are not informing us much about the political developments or economic developments, but political, economic and social data become somewhat incidental to these sources, meaning thereby that the chief focus of the Vedic sources happen to be religious. The obvious intent is to propitiate gods in order to secure benefits for the people who are actually engaged in sacrifices and prayers and so forth. Now, these texts by themselves, as is true for several other texts in ancient India, they don't by themselves inform us about the time in which they were written. So, the historical time to which these texts belong is to be worked out through circumstantial evidences, through you can say layering, historical layering of the data which are contained therein, by identifying through these references the place names, or you can say through some other evidence or through corroboration by other sources. Somehow some kind of a chronological frame is sought to be prepared by the historians and scholars, and that, on that basis it has been worked out that the Rig Veda can be regarded as the earliest of the four Vedas, and its time can be said to be, say, around 1500 BC to around 1000 BC. And the other three Vedas, that is Samved, Yajurved and Atharvaved, can be dated from, say, around 1000 BC onwards, and they can be said to have been of historical pertinence to the people who came to inhabit the time bracket, say, up to 800 BC or 600 BC. Now, therefore, some kind of classification is done. Early Vedic period is 1500 BC to 1000 BC, and the later Vedic period is regarded from 1000 BC to, say, up to 600 BC. Now, the locale of these texts happen to be, so far as Rig Veda is concerned, it happens to be the Sapta Sindhu area, the Indus area and the tributaries, and subsequent to that, in the later Vedic times, some historians argue that there is somewhat a geographical shift as per the description of the later Vedic texts, that perhaps people are also now coming to colonize or coming to inhabit the area which is the Indo-Gangetic plains and also the northern part of the Ganga, or you can say the upper Gangetic plains. So, this is the area that we would be looking at in our discussion today, and time bracket we have already discussed. Now, whatever information that we get from Rig Veda and other Vedas have to be looked in the context of their material correlates. When we say this, we obviously are referring to the archaeological cultures that we just talked of towards the beginning of our lecture. That is, the patches from where some artifacts or some assemblage of these artifacts can be had. We do not know for sure that they were the material remains of the same Rig Vedic people, but since they come from the same area that we just inferred on the basis of the reading of Rig Veda and other Vedas, and also they come from the same time, they come from the same layer, which can be discerned in terms of time from Rig Veda and other Vedas. Therefore, they can be said to be standing as some kind of an obvious candidate for their identification as the material correlates of the Rig Vedic or later Vedic people. So, what archaeologists designate as painted grey ware culture in the northwestern and northern part of India from around say 1500 to 1000 BC, even in the painted grey ware culture, distinction has to be made between the cultures who can be designated as pre-iron painted grey ware culture and post-iron painted grey ware culture. Here, one should note that the intervention of iron as an additional metal in the assemblage of painted grey ware culture happens around say 1000 to 800 BC. Now, therefore, quite a few painted grey ware cultures are understood with reference to pre-iron phase, and quite a few others with reference to iron phase of painted grey ware culture. Now, whatever archaeological data that we get from such painted grey ware sites and cultures can be studied in tandem with the data that we get from Rig Veda, the early Vedic period, and the post-iron painted grey ware data can be studied in association with the literary data that we get from later Vedic texts. So, this is the way in which some kind of chronology based understanding of this period or this area can be worked out. Now, what we shall do is in the process of looking at the developments which characterized this particular phase of history, we shall try to segregate it in terms of say political developments, social developments, economic developments, and also religious or say ideological developments. Now, talking in terms of economic developments, what we find is that in the early Vedic period, for instance, if we read the Rig Veda, then of course with the rider that it's not a text on economy, or it's not a historical text written with the intent of informing the posterity about the developments or the mundane aspects of life and so forth. Despite that, suppose it talks of ways of sacrifice, ways of propitiating a particular god, the description of the god himself, the benefits that will accrue from a particular god, the hierarchy of god, the number of times a particular god has been mentioned, and so forth. So, if we segregate the data present in Rig Veda in these fashion, then some kind of an historical insight can be arrived at. And that is what has been done by quite a few historians who have sought to make historical usage so far as reconstructing the history of this particular time is concerned with reference to Rig Veda. Now, if we do that, then we find that in economic terms, the mainstay of the economy during the Rig Vedic period can be regarded to be pastoralism. Pastoralism strewn with little bit of agriculture. So the chief, you can say, the chief economic activity is pastoral, animal husbandry, and alongside little bit of agricultural operations and references have also been made. Now, how do we arrive at this is, suppose you try to find out as to what is the chief form of wealth during the Rig Vedic times, and it appears that it is cow, go. Now, several other entities are carrying the root word of go, that is cow, and even battles between different say groups or communities or different social units are being fought over this particular chief form of wealth, and that is go. All these things can be worked out so far on the basis of the etymological study of the terms conveying say skirmishes, wars, and so forth. So much so that even the nomenclature of the chief, you can say the king. So the king is Gopati. King is the one who has largest number of cow under his command. So on that basis, it can be asserted that the principal economic activity was pastoralism and not agriculture. The agricultural implements, the agricultural operations, grains, so far as the produce of agriculture is concerned, and so forth, they are not very often mentioned in the Rig Vedic hymns. So this is the way in which economic activity is sought to be reconstructed by studying the Vedic data, the Rig Vedic data. Now, when we corroborate this with the archaeological counterpart that we have for this particular period, say the pre-iron phase of painted graveware culture, then also we find that the depth, or you can say the height of the debris, height of the layer that constitutes painted graveware, pre-iron painted graveware cultures in this area, that happens to be somewhat low. So the debris deposit is not very thick. Now, low debris deposit means that people who inhabited a particular area did not inhabit it for a longer duration of time. And we all know that pastoral societies don't stay at one place for a longer duration of time because it is or you can say in the absence of agriculture, which is food production, they have to move around in search for pasture for the cattle that they rear, and also in order to secure food for themselves, because they themselves are not growing food. Therefore, it's hard for the nature to go on replenishing the food requirements of these people and the cattle that they have time and again over a long duration of time. So they have to keep shifting their base as part of strategy of their life, and that is why perhaps these layers are not as thick as it became during the you can say later Vedic period. because as we would see in our discussion, that during the later Vedic period, say from 1000 BC to around 600 BC, we have more evidence of agriculture and settled lifestyle coming from archaeological as well as literary data. And since people are staying at one place for a longer duration of time because they are doing agriculture, and it is also to be noted that agriculture is a collective enterprise and it is a long term enterprise. You don't sow seeds to yield results or to yield fruits within a day or two. You have to nurture it, you have to see it through a couple of seasons in order to reap the benefits of sowing and so forth. So sowing season, harvesting season, then again that area has to be made suitable for agriculture and so on. Therefore, you are required to stay there for a longer duration of time, and that's how the thickness of the debris of later Vedic period is explained with a reference to the low thickness of the debris in the Rig Vedic period or the early Vedic period. So this was about the chief economic activity that has been worked out on the basis of archaeological as well as literary evidences. Apart from that, as we said, that painted graveware cultures of the early Vedic times do not give much, you can say, evidence of iron implements. Now, it is debated amongst historians as to how crucial iron could have been, or iron technology could have been, so far as understanding the economic and social life of Vedic period is concerned. Nevertheless, the absence of iron technology in the early Vedic times, particularly in terms of production, that is agriculture, it tells us something, and that is that in the absence of iron technology, the subsoil moisture of these areas could not be harnessed, and resultantly the yield would have been little bit low. Similarly, the average rainfall of the Sapta Sindhu area also was not as high as it was in the later Vedic times, where the geographical locale had probably shifted, the middle Gangetic plain. So, on the basis of all these evidences, it is again asserted that the mainstay of the economy in the Rig Vedic times perhaps was pastoralism and not agriculture. The offerings which were to be made during the sacrifices in the Rig Vedic times, even those materials have been studied, and very few grains are mentioned. So much so that the term for grains is a generic term. It's a general term, yava. So it stood for all kinds of grains. Now, etymologically, we see that if we don't have enough variety of a particular thing, then we tend to use a generic name for these things. But if we have more complexity and more varieties within a particular thing, then we start using different names. It could be a different name for rice, for different name for pulse, it could be different names for other kinds of grains and so forth. But it seems that in the Rig Vedic times, Yava was enough as a term to denote anything resembling any kind of grain. So that also drives home the point that agriculture was not very central to the lifestyle of the Rig Vedic people. So much so for the economy. Then again, the trade and exchange, or you can say alongside trade and exchange, you also have specialized artisanal activities. The specialization of craft in terms of, say, goldsmithery, ironsmithery and so forth, or people who made different kinds of jewelry or different kinds of implements and pursued very specialized kind of craft and so forth, that is also very hard to come by. So the division of labor during the Rig Vedic times was somewhat low. It was not very diversified, and trade and commercial activity was also minimal, because we don't have enough evidence related to exchange of goods and institutional structures facilitating that. Of course, people must be exchanging the requirements of their day-to-day life, of course, but long distance say transportation of goods, institutionalized way of exchange, etc., are not encountered in the Rig Vedic text. We have nothing like coins or some kind of agency facilitating these exchanges and so forth. Now, keeping all these factors in view, one can assert that economy is pastoral in nature, with little bit of awareness about agriculture. Trade and commercial network is not very developed. Coinage system is yet to come. The specialization in terms of craft and artisanal activity is also rudimentary around the Rig Vedic times. Now, in terms of polity, as I did tell you about the nomenclature, Gopati. So the king was of course the first amongst the equals, or you can say the tribal people, or you can say the community characterizing Rig Vedic communities, or you can say early Vedic communities. But in terms of power, in terms of coercive instruments under his command, the king of Rig Vedic times stood in no comparison with the kings of the later Vedic or post Vedic times. Why do I say this? Is because since we have discussed economy, and we have said that agriculture was yet to come in a big way in the Rig Vedic times, therefore the possibility of producing enough agricultural surplus was also less in the Rig Vedic times, and in the absence of enough material surplus, there was not much that could be siphoned off by any apparatus of the state, by any apparatus of any kind of political structure from the people at large. So since the surplus production itself was depressed, was somewhat low. Therefore, the structure weaved around polity, or you can say state kind of a thing, was also very low. So, the authority that was commanded by the Rigvedic king was quite less, and the society in general, coming to the social aspect, the society in general was characterized by egalitarian ethos, the ethos of equality, and the class formation, or you can say different groups constituting one particular class is just about precipitating. It has not come out in a full blown way to be referred to as a very stratified kind of a class society. So, towards the beginning of the early Vedic period, we find such instances, and in the 10th chapter of Rig Veda, which is Purusha Shukta hymn, Purusha Shukta shloka, it is mentioned that what subsequently went on to become denominator of caste system, Brahmana, Rajan, Vaishya, and Shudra. So, these four names are mentioned, and some kind of an implicit hierarchy can also be seen with reference to the kind of description that is given, that Brahmins came out from the mouth, Kshatriyas from the arms, the Vaishya from the torso region, and the Shudras from the feet. So, some kind of an implicit hierarchy can be seen, but there are quite a few other evidences, and notable is the fact that this particular section of Rig Veda is attributed to the later portion of Rig Veda, that is around the time when Rig Vedic period is ending, say around 1000 BC or so. So, around this time, some kind of a sense of hierarchy or segregation with reference to class, etc., is just about coming up. But in the earlier period, that sense is yet to get instituted. So, one can work out social scenario prevalent during the Rig Vedic period on this basis also. Similarly, the religious aspect, if we see, then of course sacrifice is the mode of worshipping or making gods happy. But these sacrifices are very general in nature, and all people of communities, all sections of the communities are participating in that. They are bringing something as gift for the king, and the king in return is also throwing, say, feast or giving back some gifts, and that is how perhaps the exchange process is happening. That is how you can say redistribution of surplus is happening. And within now in the process of doing this, of course some portion is retained by the king and his immediate kin group or his family members, and that is how this segregation is happening in terms of economic resources, in terms of class formation. Now, these things are happening in religious context. In political context also, the meetings of Rig Vedic times, the regular meetings of Rig Vedic times, of which we have quite a few references. Again, coming back to the political thing, because that would be pertinent when we talk about the later Vedic developments. The king here is the king of the kin group, meaning thereby that king is not the king of a defined area or the territory. He is the king or pramukh of a particular clan, of a particular group, which is a kin group. So, it is kin based kingship. It is not territory based kingship that we are talking of in the Rigvedic context. Now, this is also understood with reference to the fact that in the absence of agriculture, land did not retain the kind of value, or we should not be using this word retain, because it is subsequently about to happen. So, the land is not coming to attain the kind of value that it did in the later Vedic times, when agriculture made its value all the more, because one can produce or depending on the typology of the land, how fertile it is, how conducive it is to cultivate on a particular patch of land and so forth. So, the king here is the king of a kin group, and that inference can be made also with reference to the names of different communities. So, we will find that the political units or the political entities which subsequently characterized areas in later Vedic times actually connoted or denoted a particular territory. So, for example, Magad. Magad is the name of a territory, whereas Kuru, or what went on to become Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra means the Kuru clan inhabiting a particular patch of land. Now, so these are the issues that needs to be that need to be understood with reference to this particular time. Now, coming to the later Vedic period, we find that by studying the other three Vedas, Samved, Yajurved, Atharvaved, in association with the Brahmanas, and by the end of say Vedic period, we also have Upanishads and so forth. So, the kind of data that can be gathered from the study of these sources tell us that in economic terms, agriculture is gradually acquiring the center stage. So, more and more number of agricultural operations are mentioned, more and more number of grains are mentioned, more types of grains are mentioned. Similarly, say plowshare, and by the end of later Vedic times, even iron tipped plowshare is mentioned, and even in archaeological terms we have seen that the later Vedic debris deposit is thicker, which testifies to the fact that people are settling here for a longer duration of time. So, all these things tell us that perhaps the later Vedic times, or by the time we talk of later Vedic lifestyle, we are talking of an agricultural society, an agrarian kind of a setup. Pastoralism, of course, did continue, but it did not enjoy the eminent position of being the mainstay as it did in the Rigvedic times. So, that is about economy. Now, other aspects of economy, the division of labor becomes more prominent. We have more number of craft specialization, which can be had from the study of these texts. Similarly, the craftsmanship of the materials that we get from later Vedic substratum, that is also somewhat better as compared to the Rigvedic counterpart. Then trade and commercial network that can also be seen to be developing, because now we have something akin to you can say coinage system, or something which facilitates exchange. So terms, specific terms referring to such apparatus, such instruments facilitating exchange, etc., are more numerous in later Vedic times as compared to early Vedic times. So this is the kind of visualization that we can make with reference to economy in the later Vedic times, and this is how the contrast can be established with reference to the early Vedic times. Now, coming to the political part of it, as we discussed, that now since agriculture is taking the center stage, therefore kshetra, the area, is becoming important. Land is attaining importance. Land is attaining, you can say, value, and therefore the chief source of wealth becomes land and not the cattle, as was the case in the Rigvedic period. So much so that king now becomes Bhupati, that is protector of the land, and not the protector of cattle. So that again tells us about the political scenario, and if we read the literary evidences which are available, then we get to know of the Jinnah Padas, that is the area where people ventured. Janpad, Jan is tribe, communities, and Pad is feet. So the area where they moved around, and that area got designated as one Janpad. The other area can be designated as another Janpad, and by the time we come to the end of the later Vedic period, by around say 6th century BC onwards, the most powerful of several Janpadas sought to consolidate their political power by eliminating other Janpadas and bringing it all under one ambit, and that's how the concept of Mahajanpads come, and 16 Mahajanapads are referred to in the 6th century texts. And that's a different story, because that is beyond the time frame that we have chosen for our discussion today. So that is about the political developments. Now, alongside this, in the presence of more surplus which can be had as a result of agriculture in the upper as well as middle Gangetic plains, the new situation arises, and that is the king can elaborate, or king can create more elaborate political apparatus in order to siphon off the surplus which is now available with the people. So the entire paraphernalia of state which is mentioned in these texts in terms of say Ashtanga theory of the state, or Saptanga theory of the state, and so forth. So these are 7 limbs of the state, conventional limbs of the state. You can say police, army, territory, king, and so forth, taxation, and so forth. Now, these apparatus develop only with the presence of the basic premise for that, and that is agricultural surplus. And this agricultural surplus could be had as a result of intensification of agriculture in the fertile zones of North India, and also the alluvial soil and so forth. Some historians argue about the iron technology and usage of iron tipped hoe and plowshare in the agricultural operations and so forth. So all these things allow people to generate more agricultural surplus, and the apparatus of the state are also coming up. Some kind of revenue system, incipient revenue system can be seen to be developing during such functions, during such assembly functions. Now, religiously speaking, in terms of religion, what we find is that these yagyas or sacrifices, which were usual affairs in Rig Vedic times, which were quite general in nature, now in the later Vedic times became very rare. So, it used to happen after a long duration of time, but whenever it happened, it was big, it was more elaborate, and it was restricted in nature in terms of participation. So, not all members of the community could participate in that. So, it is all symptomatic of the kind of social segregation which is happening alongside. So, when we read later Vedic texts and the inferences that can be made from the later Vedic layers in terms of archaeological remains, this is the way historians look at things in order to understand, in order to capture the essence of as to how things are transforming, how things are changing over a long period of time. And it is an unbroken sequence, and then new elements are also entering into what earlier was only restricted to the Vedic domain. So, for example, alongside the references related to agriculture, what we find that these words which characterize some agricultural implement or operations are actually not Vedic words. They are words which are taken from the local languages existing outside the pale of Vedic domain. Langal, similarly other agricultural operations also carry non-Vedic words. They are referred to as loan words because that is not part of the original Vedic you can say lexicon. And therefore, it is also standing for. Sorry, is there any?
We have a question from Government Daily College, Baramulla. Which one is considered historically the most authentic, oldest source of written information?
Well, in Indian context, as we discussed, in the absence of decipherment of Indus script or Harappan script, we can only think of Rig Veda. But as I said, that the nature of this particular text is very religious in is religiously oriented. So the kind of historical data that can be culled out from this is not very large, or one has to exercise caution while doing this. So these are the you can say precautions that need to be taken while using these data. So the discussion that we had was by and large a kind of a broad survey of the sources with reference to literary as well as archaeological, in order to understand the lifestyle, the day-to-day life, the culture of the people inhabiting north and northwestern part of India from 1500 BC to up to 600 BC. We have not touched upon other parts of the Indian subcontinent, which perhaps we may take it up for discussion at some other point of time.
Thank you so much for giving such a interesting and useful facts about Harappan culture and Vedic
you.
period. I hope this lecture must be beneficial for you all. And we have such a less time, and so we have to wrap up the EduSet lecture. So thank you all for giving. Thank you, sir, for giving such a beautiful lecture, and thank you all for taking part in this lecture.